Read slowly, warm voice, this is your hook. Some people walk into your life and you just know. You cannot explain it, you cannot logic your way around it. You just know in your chest, in your hands, in the way your whole body goes quiet when they walk into a room. But what do you do when the person who does that to you looks you straight in the eye and says, I am not like you, I do not feel those things, I never have? What do you do when you believe him? My name is Noah, and for 8 months I shared a college dorm room with a guy named Caleb who told me that he was completely, 100% straight. He said it like a fact, like the weather, like something that simply was and would never be anything else. And I believed him. I had no reason not to, so I did what any sensible person
This place has the
would
best
do
coffee
in
on
that
campus.
situation.
Totally. And it's a great spot to
Kept my
unwind,
feelings
right?
locked
Especially in
behind a
autumn. The
door in
vibe's
my
perfect.
chest,
Couldn't agree
and
more.
I got on with being his friend, and I told myself that was enough. It was not enough. But what happened one night
These
in that
leaves
small
are
dorm
incredible
room,
this year.
one honest,
Yeah, perfect for
unguarded,
crunching.
completely unexpected
Exactly.
night changed everything between us. This is that story. Stay with me. I arrived at Harlow University on a Saturday in early September with 2 suitcases, a box of books, and a low-level anxiety that had been running in the background of my brain since August. I was 20 years old, sophomore year. I had requested a single room and been assigned a double instead due to what the housing office called an administrative oversight and what I called a small personal disaster. Room 214, Hadley Hall, 3rd floor. The window faced a parking lot which was not scenic, but the afternoon light came through at a golden angle that made even a parking lot look like something worth painting. My roommate was already there when I arrived. He was sitting on the bed on the left side of the room, one leg bent, the other on the floor, reading a worn paperback with a cover so faded I could not make out the title. He was tall even sitting down. Dark blonde hair, slightly too long, pushed back from his face. He had the kind of build that suggested outdoor work rather than a gym, broad shoulders, easy posture, nothing performed about it. He looked up when I pushed the door open with my shoulder. Hey, he said, simple, no particular energy behind it, not unfriendly, just unhurried. Hey, I said, I'm Noah.
I have
Caleb,
something that
he
might
said.
help.
He put the book
It's
face
safe,
down on the bed
and
and
there's no
stood up
pressure.
and held out his hand. Firm handshake, direct eye contact. The kind of person who had been taught that these things mattered and had decided he agreed. You get here this morning, I asked, because I needed to say something and that was the first sentence available. Last night, he said, drove up from Kentucky. Long drive. Not too bad. And that was more or less how it started. Caleb was a business major on a partial athletic scholarship for track and field. He was from a small town in eastern Kentucky, the kind of place he described without bitterness,
Cold
but
out
also
here,
without
huh?
nostalgia, the way
Yeah.
you describe a place
Class
you
should be
came from
warm.
rather than a
Hope
place you
so.
belonged to. He had one older sister. His parents ran a hardware store. He had never lived outside a 40-mile radius until the day he drove to
Man,
Harlow.
this room feels lighter tonight.
I was an English
Totally.
literature
Way better
major
with the
from
lamps.
Portland,
Yeah.
Oregon.
Makes studying
I had
feel
2
easier,
moms,
right?
a
Perfect.
rescue dog named
Can't
after a
sleep?
James
No,
Baldwin
my mind's
novel, and
racing.
more
You?
opinions about
Same.
narrative
It's nice to
structure than
talk like
anyone had
this.
ever
Yeah.
asked
Good
for.
night.
I had been out since I was 17.
Opening up about it is
I
the
had a
first
small,
step.
solid group of friends who
I'm
knew
here
me
for
well.
you.
I was, by most measures, comfortable in my own skin. What I was not comfortable with was living in close proximity to someone who made my entire nervous system sit up and pay attention every time he walked into the room. It started immediately. That is the honest truth. The very first evening when we were both unpacking and he pulled a worn flannel shirt from his bag and put it on over his t-shirt and pushed up the sleeves, I had to look deliberately at the wall for a moment and remind myself of several important facts. Fact 1, he did not know me. Fact 2, I did not know him. Fact 3, we had to live together for an
Beautiful
entire
day for a walk,
academic
right?
year, and making
Yeah,
things
perfect.
strange
These
on
buds are a
day
good
1
sign.
was absolutely
Definitely.
not an option.
Feels like spring.
So
I don't
I
know
looked
what
at
to
the
do.
wall, and then I
Wait,
looked
really?
at my
That
bookshelf,
changes everything.
and then I started
Okay, I understand now.
alphabetizing my
Thank you.
books by author, which is a thing I do when I need to give my hands something to do. You alphabetize your books?
So,
Caleb
what's the plan
asked,
for tomorrow?
watching me from across the
I
room
was
with an
thinking about
expression
grabbing
of
breakfast.
mild curiosity.
Sounds good.
By author
Man,
last
this
name,
light
I
is
said.
incredible. Totally.
He said,
These walks
not
are the best.
dismissive,
For sure.
just genuinely
Glad we did this.
processing this as new information about the world. That was the thing about Caleb that I noticed early and found myself thinking about often. He did not perform reactions. When something surprised him, he just looked at it, turned it over in his mind, and moved on. There was no
Hey,
irony in it.
good to finally
no
meet you.
layers. He said
too,
what he
man.
meant
Ready
what
for
he
this?
said, and if he
Yeah,
had nothing
let's
to
do it.
say, he was simply quiet in a way that never felt hostile. For someone who had grown up around people who communicated mostly in subtext, this was both refreshing and deeply disorienting. By October, we had settled into the specific rhythms that define two people sharing a small space well. He kept his side of the room neat. I kept mine organized in a way that looked chaotic but had internal logic. He woke up early for morning training runs. I stayed up late reading. We had somehow, without discussing it, worked out a system where neither of us bothered the other and both of us felt comfortable, which is honestly a better outcome than most roommate situations produce. We talked, not constantly. Caleb was not a constant talker, but genuinely, about books because I was always reading something and he was more curious about stories than his business major suggested. About his training, which he was serious about in a focused, undramatic way. About his town. About my family, which he asked about directly and without any visible awkwardness when I mentioned my two moms. Cool, he said simply, and moved on, which was, in my experience, the best possible response. He had a girlfriend back home. Her name was Lauren. She was studying nursing at a school 2 hours away. He talked about her warmly and without excessive detail. She was real to him, that was clear. They texted every evening. He drove to see her one weekend in October and came back Sunday night quieter than usual, which I noted and did not ask
This
about.
place has the best coffee on
I had
campus.
no romantic
Totally. And
life
it's a
to
great
speak
spot to
of.
unwind.
I had liked
Right?
someone
Especially in
briefly
autumn.
in the
The
spring
vibe is perfect.
semester
Couldn't
of
agree more.
freshman year, a guy in my poetry seminar who had turned out to be straight and slightly oblivious in equal measure. I had recovered quickly.
These leaves
I was
are
used
incredible
to the
this
particular
year.
discipline of wanting
Yeah,
things
perfect
I
for
could not
crunching.
have and
Exactly.
finding a way to live alongside that want without letting it take over. I told myself, extremely practiced at this. What I was less practiced at was the specific version of it that involved living 3 meters away from the source. November brought cold weather and midterms and a shift in the energy of the room that I could feel but could not name. It started small. Caleb was quieter, not unfriendly, never unfriendly, but quieter. He ran longer in the mornings and came back with an expression that suggested the running had not solved whatever problem he had taken out with him. He stopped talking about Lauren as naturally as he used to. The evening texts happened, but with a tension around them I had not seen before. I did not ask, it was not my place. We were friends, we were genuinely, comfortably friends by then, but there are things you wait to be invited into. Then one evening in late November, we were both at our desks studying, the room quiet except for the sound of rain against the parking lot window. Caleb put down his pen. He did not pick it up again. I could feel him not picking it up even though I was not looking at him. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Yeah," I said. I turned in my chair. He was looking at the desk surface, not at me. His jaw was tight in a way I had not seen before. "Lauren and I broke up," he said, "last week."
I have something that might help.
"I'm sorry," I said, and
It's
meant it.
safe, and there's
"It's
no
okay,"
pressure.
he said. Then she said I seemed far away, that I wasn't fully present, that it felt like part of me was somewhere else. He paused. She wasn't wrong. I waited. He finally looked up. His eyes met mine, and there was something in them I had not seen before, not confusion exactly, but the beginning of a question he did not yet have words for. "You ever feel like," he started and then stopped. "Like what?" I said quietly. He shook his head slowly. "Nothing, never mind, sorry." He picked up his pen and went back to his
Cold
work.
out here, huh?
And I turned back
Yeah.
to mine, and
Class
the
should be
rain
warm.
kept going
Hope so.
against the window, and the question he had not finished sat in the room between us like a third presence neither of us acknowledged.
Man,
The
this
thing
room
about
feels lighter
living in a
tonight.
small room
Totally.
with someone
Way better
is
with the
that
lamps.
you learn them
Yeah.
without trying.
Makes studying feel easier, right?
You learn the
Perfect.
sound of their breathing
Can't
when they
sleep?
are asleep
No,
and
my
when they
mind's
are
racing.
awake and
You?
lying still
Same.
because
It's nice,
they
though,
cannot
talking like this.
sleep.
Yeah. Good
You
night.
learn which
I know it's
silences
hard,
are comfortable
opening
and
up
which
about
ones
it
are
is the
carrying
first step.
something. You learn their
I'm here
habits
for
and
you.
their tells and the small, involuntary ways their body communicates what their words do not. By December, I knew Caleb the way you know a place you have lived in long enough, not perfectly, not completely, but with a depth that does not require explanation. And what I knew, though I kept it to myself and turned it over carefully and tried to look at it from every angle before trusting it, was this. Something was shifting in him. Not dramatically, not the way it happens in films with a sudden revelation and everything changing in an instant. Slowly, quietly. The way a season changes, you do not see the moment it happens,
Beautiful day
but
for a
one
walk,
morning
right?
you go
Yeah,
outside and the
perfect.
air
These
is
buds are a
different
good
and you
sign.
know something
Definitely.
has turned.
Feels like spring.
He stood a little
I don't know what
closer
to
than
do.
he used to when we
Wait,
were
really?
both in
That
the
changes
small
everything.
kitchen space
Okay,
of
I
the
understand
dorm
now.
making coffee.
Thank you.
Not much, just a degree or two. Enough to notice if you were the kind of person who noticed such things, which I was,
So,
which was
what's the
both a
plan for
gift
tomorrow?
and a problem.
I was thinking
He
about grabbing
started borrowing my
breakfast.
books.
Sounds
This
good.
was not unusual.
Man, this
We had
light is
talked about books
incredible.
from the start.
Totally.
But now
These
he would
walks are the
read what I
best. For
recommended
sure.
and come back
Glad we
with
did
thoughts,
this.
real thoughts, and we would talk for an hour about a story's emotional logic, and he would lean forward on his elbows and get more animated than I had ever seen him about track splits or business theory. He watched me sometimes when he thought I was not
Hey,
looking. I
good to
was
finally
almost
meet you.
always looking.
You too, man.
Not in a
Ready for this?
surveillance way,
Yeah,
just
let's do
aware,
it.
the way you are aware of light sources automatically. I told myself it meant nothing. He was going through a breakup. He was figuring things out. People change their habits when they are processing something. This was normal. This was friendship. I was reading too much into things because I was a literature major, and reading too much into things was technically my area of study. I was very good at telling myself things. The night everything shifted was a Thursday in the second week of December, the week before winter break. It had been snowing all day, the first real snow of the year, the kind that comes down steadily and turns the campus white and makes everything quieter than usual, like the world has put a blanket over itself. We were both in the room, no particular reason to be anywhere else. Caleb was on his bed with a book, actually reading this time, not staring at it. I was at my desk finishing an essay that was due the next morning. The room was warm. The snow fell past the window in slow gray-white curtains. Around 11, I finished the essay and stretched and pushed back from my desk. "Done?" he asked without looking up. "Finally," I said. I got up and went to the small window and looked out at the snow covering the parking lot, the campus buildings white and still beyond it. It was genuinely beautiful in a way
This place has the
parking
best
lot
coffee on
normally
campus.
refused
Totally.
to be.
And it's a great spot to unwind.
"Come look at
Right?
this,"
Especially
I
in
said,
autumn.
"the
The
snow."
vibe is perfect. Couldn't agree more.
He got up from the bed and came and stood beside me at the window. We both looked out. The snow was still falling, soft
These leaves
and
are
continuous,
incredible
the
this
yellow
year.
of the parking lot
Yeah,
lights
perfect for
catching it
crunching.
and turning it
Exactly.
gold near the ground. "Nice," he said quietly. We stood there for a moment, shoulders almost touching, both of us looking at the snow. Then he said, "Can I ask you something?" I turned to look at him. His profile was lit by the window's light, the snow reflecting pale and golden on his face. "Yeah," I said. He did not look at me, he kept looking at the snow. "What does it feel like," he said slowly, "when you realize you like someone, like really like someone, how do you know?" I was quiet for a moment, choosing words carefully. "It feels like paying attention," I said. "Like your attention goes there without you deciding to send it. You just find yourself noticing everything about them, the way they move, the way they talk, what makes them laugh." He was very still. "And then," I said, "there's usually some moment where you realize you have been doing that for a long time, and you ask yourself when it started and you can't find the beginning." A long pause. "Yeah," he said very quietly. "Yeah, that sounds right." I looked at him. He was still looking at the snow, but his jaw had that tension in it again, and his hands were in his pockets, and something in the set of his shoulders told me he was working up to something. "Caleb," I said gently. He finally turned and looked at me. And
I have
there
something
it
that
was,
might help.
everything he had not
It's
been
safe,
saying for weeks.
and there's no pressure.
Not a confession, not in words, just present in his face with nowhere left to hide. A kind of terrified honesty that I recognized because I had worn it myself years ago in a mirror in my childhood bedroom in Portland. "I don't know what is happening to me," he said. His voice was low and careful. I grew up thinking I was." He stopped. "I know," I said softly. "I don't know what that means," he said. "About me, about who I am. I have no map for this, Noah. I have never had a map for this."
Cold out here, huh?
"I know," I said again.
Yeah.
"Most people
Class should
don't
be
the
warm.
first time."
Hope so.
He looked at me, his eyes were searching. "What did you do?" he asked. "When you first knew, what did you do with it?" I
Man,
thought
this room
about
feels
that
lighter
for a
tonight.
moment.
Totally.
About being
Way better with the
17
lamps.
and
Yeah.
sitting with
Makes
something
studying feel
enormous
easier,
and
right?
unnamed and beautiful and
sleep?
terrifying.
No, my mind's racing.
I let it be
You?
true,
Same.
I
It's
said.
nice, though,
That
talking
was
like
the
this.
first
Yeah.
thing.
Good
I
night.
just let it
I
be
know it's
true
hard,
without
but opening up
immediately
about it is the
deciding what
first
it
step.
meant or what I had to do about
I'm
it.
here for
I
you.
just let it exist. He nodded slowly, taking that in. "And then," he said, "and then I told one person I trusted, and the world did not end, and that made it easier to take the next step." The snow kept falling outside the window. The room was very warm and very still. I think, Caleb said, and his voice was careful and slightly unsteady, I think I have been trying not to know something for a long time. I think so too, I said. He looked at me with something close to wonder. You knew. I noticed, I said. I didn't know, I just noticed some things. He breathed out slowly, the
Beautiful
tension
day
in
for
his
a walk,
shoulders
right?
lowered by a
Yeah,
fraction.
perfect. These buds are a good
I'm
sign.
scared, he
Definitely.
said simply,
Feels
the
like
most
spring.
direct thing he had
I
said
don't know
all
what
night.
to do.
That's
Wait, really?
normal,
That
I
changes
said.
everything.
That is completely
Okay, I understand
normal,
now.
and it does
Thank
not
you.
stay this scary. It gets smaller. I promise you it gets smaller. We stood at the window for a while longer. The
So,
snow
what's the
fell.
plan for
The parking
tomorrow?
lot turned
I
slowly
was
white.
thinking about grabbing
Neither of us said
breakfast.
much more that
Sounds
night.
good.
But
Man,
when we
this light is
eventually went to
incredible.
our separate
Totally.
beds and
These
turned
walks are
off
the
the
best.
light, the
For
room
sure.
felt different.
Glad we did this.
Lighter, like something heavy had been set down in it and left there instead of carried. And in the dark, I lay still and thought about the fact that nothing had happened, nothing dramatic, nothing irreversible, and that sometimes the most
Hey,
important
good to
moments
finally
are the
meet you.
ones that look
You too,
from
man.
the
Ready
outside
for this?
like two
Yeah,
people
let's
just
do it.
standing at a window watching snow. Winter break was 3 weeks long. Caleb went back to Kentucky. I went back to Portland. We did not talk every day, that was not our dynamic, but we texted more than we had before, small things mostly. He sent me a photo of snow on the Kentucky hills that looked nothing like the Midwest campus snow, softer and quieter. I sent him a photo of my dog asleep on my old bedroom floor. He replied with a single word, perfect, which I thought about more than was strictly reasonable. I did not know what had changed between us. I knew something had. That conversation at the window had opened a door, not walked through it, just opened it, and now the air between us was different. There was more in it. More possibility and more weight and more of that particular electric quality that I associated with things that matter. I did not let myself assume. Caleb was figuring something out about himself that had nothing to do with me necessarily. His process was his own, whatever he was discovering about his identity, about what he wanted, about who he was that belonged to him. My feelings, which were real and had been real for months, were not something I was going to hand to him like a responsibility before he was ready for them. I decided, going to be patient. I was going to be his friend, and if something grew from that, really grew, clearly and by his own choice, then I would deal with that when it came. This was a very mature and sensible decision that I managed to maintain.
This place has
for
the best coffee on
approximately
campus.
4 days
Totally.
into
And
the
it's a great
spring
spot to
semester
unwind.
before he
Right?
walked
Especially in
back
autumn.
into
The
room
vibe is perfect. Couldn't agree more.
214 with his bags and his worn flannel jacket and his unhurried way of filling a space, and I had to alphabetize my
These
books
leaves
again.
are incredible this
January
year.
changed things.
Yeah, perfect for
I
crunching.
cannot point
Exactly.
to one moment. It was a series of them, accumulating the way snow accumulates, each flake small and light, but the weight building until it becomes something you cannot ignore. He started talking about what he had been feeling. Not in one big conversation. Caleb was not a one big conversation person. In small installments, on the way back from the dining hall, during the quiet hour after his evening run when we were both winding down before sleep. Once at 2 a.m. when neither of us could sleep and the campus was silent outside and the room felt like the only lit place in the world. He told me about a boy he had known in middle school, a friend. He had never let himself think about it directly, but it had always been there at the edge of things, something he had categorized as admiration and moved on from quickly. He told me about how easy it had been to be with Lauren, how much he had genuinely cared for her, and how there had always been something slightly absent in him that he had not been able to name. I kept thinking there was something wrong with me, he said one night in the dark, both of us in our separate beds. Like I couldn't fully arrive somewhere, like I was always slightly outside of my own life. I know that feeling, I said. How long did it take, he asked, to feel like you were inside your own life? It got better every time I was honest about something, I said. Not all at once, in pieces. Every time I told the truth about something, it was like a window opening.
I have
Long
something that
pause.
might help.
I think
It's
I have
safe,
been honest with
and there's
you,
no
he
pressure.
said, more honest than I have been with anyone. I know, I said, I'm glad. Me too, he said. Another pause, the particular quality of it was different from the others, warmer, more open. Noah. Yeah. I think I like you, he said. I don't fully know yet what I am or what this means, but I know that. I wanted to say it because I've been saying true things and that is a true thing. I lay in the dark and let that sentence exist for a moment before I answered it. I like you too, I said. I have for a while.
Cold out here, huh?
I thought maybe
Yeah.
he said very
Class should
quietly.
be warm. Hope
Was
so.
that okay? I asked. Me liking you, was that okay for you? Yes, he said immediately. It was yes, more than okay.
Man, this room
We were
feels lighter
quiet for a
tonight.
moment.
Totally. Way
What do
better
we
with
do
the
with
lamps.
that? He
Yeah.
asked.
Makes studying feel
I
easier,
don't
right?
know, I
Perfect.
said honestly.
Can't
I
sleep?
think we don't have
No,
to
my mind's
decide
racing.
everything
You?
right now. I
Same.
think
It's
we
nice
can
though,
just
talking
let it
like
be
this.
true
Yeah.
tonight,
Good night.
like we
I know
talked
it's
about.
hard,
Just let it
but
exist.
opening up about it is the
I
first
could
step.
hear him breathing, slow
I'm
and
here for
steady,
you.
but less tense than it usually was. Okay, he said, yeah, that feels right. We went to sleep. The campus was quiet outside, the room was warm. And something that had been held carefully in both of us for a long time was finally allowed to simply rest. What came after was not rushed. That is the part of the story I want to tell carefully because it matters. Caleb was figuring out something fundamental about himself, and that process deserved time and space and no pressure from any direction. We talked honestly. We were patient with each other. We laughed a lot, which I had not expected to be as important as it turned out to be. There was an
Beautiful day for
afternoon
a
in
walk, right?
February when we were
Yeah,
both in the
perfect. These
campus
buds are a good
library
sign.
sitting across
Definitely.
from each other
Feels
at
like
a
spring.
wide wooden table
I don't know what to
supposedly
do.
working.
Wait,
He had
really?
his
That
business
changes
textbook
everything.
open.
Okay, I
had a
understand now.
novel.
Thank you.
Neither of us was reading. He was looking at the table between us with a small, private smile. What? I said.
So, what's the
Nothing, he
plan for
said, still
tomorrow?
smiling.
I was
That is
thinking
not a
about
nothing
grabbing
face,
breakfast.
I said.
Sounds good.
He looked up. His
Man,
eyes
this light
were
is
warm
incredible.
and direct
Totally.
and completely
These walks are the
unguarded in a
best.
way that
For
still
sure.
caught me
Glad
off
we did
guard
this.
every single time. I was just thinking, he said, that I'm glad the housing office messed up. The administrative oversight, I said. The administrative oversight, he agreed. That put me in this room with you.
Hey, good to finally
I looked
meet
at him
you.
across the
You too,
library
man.
table.
Ready for this?
The
Yeah,
afternoon
let's
light
do
was
it.
coming through the high windows and falling across the books and the wooden surfaces and the quiet people working around us. Me too, I said. He reached across the table, just his hand open in the space between our books. I put my hand in his. We held on for a moment, quiet, easy, real. And then we both went back to pretending to read, both of us still smiling, the afternoon light warm around us and the library going on as if nothing enormous had just happened in the small space between two people at a table. Spring came slowly to the Midwest campus. The snow went. The trees opened up. The paths between buildings went from gray slush to actual earth again, and the whole campus felt like it was exhaling after a long-held breath. Caleb told his sister in March, a phone call that lasted an hour and a half. He came back to the room afterward looking tired and clear-eyed and a little like someone who had just finished something hard and found it less terrible than expected. How did it go? I asked. She said she always figured there was something, he said. Not this specifically, just something. She said she was glad I told her. He paused. She wants to meet you. I'd like that, I said. He nodded and smiled. The unperformed smile that was still one of the
This place
best
has the
things
best
I
coffee
had
on
seen in
campus.
person.
Totally. And it's a great spot to
He told
unwind.
his parents
Right?
in
Especially in
May
autumn.
over
The vibe is
spring
perfect.
break,
Couldn't agree
which
more.
was a harder conversation and took more than one day and is his story to tell and not mine. What I know is that he came back from
These leaves
Kentucky
are
quieter
incredible
than he had
this year.
left but not broken.
Yeah, perfect for
determined,
crunching.
actually,
Exactly.
the way he looked after a hard training run when he had done the thing anyway. They need time, he said. That's okay, I said. I know, he said, it is. Finals came, the year ended. We packed up room 214 for the last time on a warm day in early May, the parking lot outside the window no longer gray but bright with spring light. We had already signed up to room together again next year. This had been decided without a great deal of discussion, in the way that things are decided when they are simply obvious. We carried the last boxes down the stairs and loaded them into Caleb's truck and stood on the sidewalk outside Hadley Hall in the May sunshine. Same room next year, he said. Same room, I said. He looked at me in the easy, direct way he had, the way that no longer had any held-back quality to it, nothing kept behind glass. I'm glad you stayed, he said. When things got complicated, I'm glad you stayed being my friend and let me figure things out. I was always going to stay, I said. I know, he said. That mattered a lot, Noah, more than you know. I looked at him in the spring light. Tall and easy and entirely himself in a way he had not been entirely himself on the September afternoon I had first pushed open that door with my shoulder.
I have something that might help.
You did the work, I
It's
said.
safe,
That was all you.
and there's no pressure.
He shook his head slightly. Not all me. We stood there for a moment. The campus moved around us. Somewhere nearby someone was playing music from a speaker and the sound floated across the bright day. Then he took my hand. Easy, natural, the way it had been since February, like it had always been the most logical place for his hand to be. "Drive safe," I said. "Call me when you get to Kentucky." "I'll call you before Kentucky," he said. "I'll call you from the road." "Okay," I said. He squeezed my hand once, then he
Cold
got in
out
the
here,
truck.
huh?
I stood
Yeah.
on the sidewalk
Class
and
should be
watched
warm.
him pull away.
Hope so.
The campus was bright and warm and full of endings that were also beginnings. I thought about a September afternoon and two suitcases
Man, this
and a
room feels
parking
lighter
lot
tonight.
view and a guy
Totally. Way
sitting
better
on a
with the
bed
lamps.
reading a
Yeah.
paperback
Makes
whose
studying feel
cover
easier,
was too
right?
faded
Perfect.
to read.
Can't
I
sleep?
thought about
No, my
snow
mind's
on a
racing.
window,
You?
about 2
Same.
in the
It's nice,
morning,
though, talking
about
like
a
this. Yeah.
hand
Good
reaching
night.
across a
I know it's
library
hard,
table,
but opening up
about
about it
how
is
the
the first
biggest
step.
things in a life are almost
I'm here
never the
for you.
loud ones. He called me 40 minutes later from the highway. We talked for 2 hours. If I could go back to the Noah who arrived at Hadley Hall on that September Saturday, the Noah who had requested a single room and was dreading a year of careful distance and managed feelings, I would tell him this. You are going to be fine, better than fine. You are going to get a roommate who is nothing like what you expected and everything you needed. He's going to be slow to open up and completely honest when he does. He is going to borrow your books and have real opinions about them. He is going to go through something real and you are going to be steady for him, and he is going to do the same for you in different
Beautiful day
ways
for
at
a walk,
different
right?
times.
Yeah, perfect.
He is
These
going to
buds are a good
figure out
sign.
who he is,
Definitely.
not
Feels like
quickly,
spring.
not without
I don't know
difficulty,
what to do.
but thoroughly
Wait,
and
really? That
honestly, and with
changes
a kind of
everything.
courage
Okay,
that
I
will make you
understand now.
proud every
Thank you.
time you think about it. And one day you are going to be standing in the spring sunshine outside a dorm you are packing
So,
up for the
what's the
last
plan
time,
for tomorrow?
and he is going to hold your
I was
hand
thinking
like it
about
is the
grabbing
simplest
breakfast.
and most
Sounds
natural
good.
thing in the world.
Man, this light is
And it
incredible.
will be.
Totally.
There
These
is a
walks are the
version of
best.
this
For
story
sure.
where I tell
Glad we
you
did
it was
this.
easy, where the complications were small and the path was clear. But the real version is better. The real version has all the difficulty in it, the uncertainty, the patience, the nights of lying in the dark not knowing what was happening or what
good
it
to
would
finally
become.
meet you.
The real
You too,
version
man.
costs
Ready for this?
something, and
Yeah,
because it
let's do
costs
it.
something, it meant something. Caleb is taking a photography elective next semester. He says he wants to understand the art I keep dragging him to. I think he has more of an eye for beautiful things than he has ever given himself credit for. I started running in the mornings. Not seriously, not the way Caleb runs, with purpose and form and the focused energy of someone with something to prove to themselves. Just enough to be outside in the early light, just enough to feel like I am moving through the day instead of waiting for it. We run together sometimes, quiet, easy, two people who found each other in a small room with a parking lot view and a window that caught the snow just right. That is enough, that is more than enough. That is everything.